Welcome to our final Life and Faith for 2021. I'm Simon Smart.
I'm Justine Toe.
And I'm Natasha Moore, and this is our Christmas episode.
Oh, it's lovely. But it's not the best part of Christmas. This is.
Every year around this time, we start to see some competing versions of what Christmas is all about. Attempts to pin down what makes this time of year magical for so many people, if not for everyone.
But let's be honest, a lot of these are very thinly veiled attempts to get us to buy things, right? But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't actually really meaningful and might also bring a tear to my eye. So even though I know what the agenda is, I can't help being kind of like lulled.
Christmas ads.
Well, I mean, for me, it's probably more the Love Actually kind of Christmas films, let's say, but the ads do a really good job too.
I will confess to getting quite emotional about some of these. This is particularly a thing in the UK. Every year, the major brands there come up with these Christmas ads. They're practically short films. It's kind of a competition for the best one. The John Lewis Christmas ad. John Lewis is a department store.
So not the civil rights
guy.
No. Oh my gosh.
Different John Lewis.
Yeah.
That's usually a major tearjerker. So this year it has a title, like a short film. It's called Unexpected Guest, and it's about a young alien girl who crash lands her spaceship in a snowy wood and
As you do.
is befriended by a local boy. It's all very moving. But maybe my favourite this year comes from the posh British supermarket chain, Waitrose.
This is pure joy. But this is infused with truffle. Turkey. Everyone loves a Christmas party, but passing Heston's mince pies off as your own, thrilling. Just whip these up. Myself. Candied figs in your Christmas pudding. Sprouts that are mostly pancetta. And stuffing. Yes, it was me. I ate the stuffing. All of it. Because the best bit of Christmas is the food.
This is all slightly tongue-in-cheek, of course, but the idea is that, giving gifts and singing carols and watching Christmas movies and gathering with friends and family is all well and good. But we all know this time of year is really about the food.
Well, like they have a point, right? Like we are very ritual and almost liturgical in our expectation of like foods. Yeah. I mean, like I think in terms of my own family gatherings, there's still people talking about Auntie Sylvie's lemon potatoes, which, long story short, I have somehow had a Greek yaya, and her family became our family. And I think, though, that because of her relationship with my dad, the lemon potatoes were not right unless there was soy sauce in them. So it has these resonances.
Works.
So the food kind of carries memories of the time together and all that. So it is something that I look forward to, I have to say.
Because my family, every year we make rumbles. We make them on Tree Day, so the day at the start of
rumbles?
December. They're like these kind of chocolate and coconut and rum.
Oh, got it. Yeah,
balls.
Christmas.
Sorry, I heard
it's in
rumbles,
the name,
not rumballs. Yeah. I was like, oh.
And that's kind of, we only have them this time of year.
Yeah.
They last until January sometime.
Yeah.
How about you, Simon? Favourite Christmas food?
Absolutely. I go for the full-blown Christmas pudding, brandy, custard and ice cream.
Do you like the brandy?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
You
like
like
it.
the brandy.
Yeah, on the cake. And
In bushfires.
Auntie Marge's cake. Auntie Marge is no longer with us, unfortunately, and I think her recipe might have been lost somewhere, but that used to be spectacular.
Wow.
We still do the full thing, and it wouldn't be Christmas without that, and it's truly a food highlight of the year for me. I love it, and I look forward to it every year. Now, obviously, we are the Centre for Public Christianity, so we have some
Centre for Public Food.
we have some other ideas about what Christmas is, really about. But functionally, I would say that a lot of these specific elements, the gifts, the food, the festivities, and the traditions, or even the liturgy, as you called it, Justine, are what makes this time of year special. So how do those things link up to a bigger picture of what makes Christmas significant?
Well, in today's episode, we're speaking with a couple of Revs, actually. We've got Reverend Bill Crews from 2GB and also our colleague, the Reverend Tim Costello. And we're asking them what the best bit of Christmas is for them and what any of it has to do with the birth of the baby in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago.
Bill Crews, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Simon. I'm honoured to be here.
Now, in your book, 12 Rules for Living a Better Life, you do describe the origins of what is now a major Sydney institution, your Christmas lunch. I think it starts in 1971 in a church hall in Ashfield with a plate of sandwiches and about 2 people turned up. Firstly, why did you do that original lunch with just those couple of people? What brought that on?
Well, it was in 1971. I was at the Wayside Chapel in King's Cross, and we started doing them there. And then I moved to Ashfield in 1983, and it was just axiomatic to do the same thing. And I talked to the congregation that were basically 10 lovely old Methodist ladies who all wore hats to church and called one another Miss. And they said, but everyone's got somewhere to go on Christmas Day. They all spend time with their families. I said, no, there are people that aren't. And so one of the old ladies gave me a plate of sandwiches and people started turning up. And that's really how it happened. We went from 2 the first year to 13 the next, to 11 the third, and then 400, and then it just took off from there.
And you've been doing it ever since.
Yes.
And nowadays, when you have it, you'll have a lot of people. How many is it these days?
Oh, we'll get between 2,000 and 3,000 people. And honestly, they go all the way down the road at queues and all of that. And it's such fun, mate. We've got entertainment and clowns and jugglers and singers, and it's a party.
It's fantastic.
And we try and do it with all our outlets as well, wherever we're delivering meals on Christmas Day, because it's on Christmas Day when the loneliness and the traumas of the ghosts of Christmas past come back to haunt you. So it's got to be on the day.
Absolutely. And in your book, you say Christmas is a bit of a nightmare for some people. You're trying to help with that.
It's huge for a lot of people, not just for the guests who come, but for some of the volunteers. I remember a couple of years ago, I was talking to a lady because she came up here and she said her son had got a depressive episode and had walked into a train. And she said, I can't face Christmas alone. I can't face it. I've got to come and help with you. And there's a lot of people like that, people whose marriages are busted up or the kids are with the ex somewhere and they're left all alone. And so this becomes a surrogate party for everybody, if you get what I mean. Nobody gets left out.
To what degree do you feel like there's a sense of community at that moment?
Huge. Everybody's open. The people who turn up at our events really have been broken open by the traumas of life and are so looking out. You can be kind of broken and then you get miserable and angry and, carry on about the world, or you can be broken open, which means you want to reach out. And so the people who want to reach out, they're the ones who come and get involved with us.
Do you notice things, you've done this for a long time, Bill, what's the things that you notice about human beings in these kind of moments in terms of what they need and what they long for?
It's when the vulnerability shows. It's when all their longings show. one of the most meaningful Christmas days here once was a mother turned up with her daughter, who would have been about 5 or 6 or something. And in the middle of the Christmas lunch, the daughter threw the biggest tantrum, sadness, screaming, crying fit you could imagine. And what had happened had been that the girl's father was killed before she was born. And somehow on this Christmas day, she realised she would never, ever know her father. And the sadness and all that was overpowering. And within 2 seconds, she had 5,000 fathers, if you know what I mean. Every man came from everywhere. And it was just a healing. It was a terribly sad but a healing moment at the same time.
Do you love it, Bill?
Oh, yes. I feel time after time I touch the edges of God, you know. It's just so, it's a time when everything kind of comes together, everything. There was years ago, just before, on Christmas Eve, I was sitting in the restaurant and a little old lady turned up and she said, I brought some food for your Christmas lunch. And she had in a bag, she had a tiny leg of lamb and a tin of peaches. And every Christmas day, she and her husband and a disabled son would have Christmas lunch together. And then the little old man died, so she and the son did it. The son had a disability. And then the son died. And all the neighbours got together and said she's not going to spend Christmas Day on her own. And I realised she'd come here and brought the Christmas lunch she shared with her husband and son. And it's like you suddenly universalise the preciousness of life, you know?
Yeah.
And it just hits. It hits you like a truck, you know?
Yeah. And Bill, what has it got to do with the original Christmas story? Do you feel like this is an echo of that in some way?
There's an echo there. There's the fact that out of the sadness and the destructiveness and the what is of this world, new hope's being born every second. Every second. All you have to do is look and listen and you'll see it. And that over and over and over again, I've found that. And it's humbling. It brings it all to life, you know, the fact that the hope of the world doesn't come to the powerful, or it doesn't come to, I'm getting teary, it doesn't come to the powerful, it doesn't come to the leaders, it comes to the poorest people struggling. That's where the hope lives.
Well, it's enormous gift to lots of people, and I can tell, Bill, it's been in a strange way, despite I'm sure it's a huge effort, a gift to you as well.
Yes, it is. It is. It's shown to me the glory of what's in human beings if we just want to look for it.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's another memorable one this year, Bill.
Thank you, mate.
For speaking with us.
Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
Thank you. God bless you.
You're listening to the Life and Faith Christmas episode, and at the end of a long year, we are thinking about what can be so great about this time of year. The food, the family time, the gifts, the joy of serving others.
Yeah, and we were sitting around and talking about the best gift we'd ever received. And it came out that our colleague Tim Costello has a lovely story about the best Christmas gift he'd ever received. And we really thought it was worth sharing with everyone.
Tim, welcome. Merry Christmas.
And to you. Great to be with you.
Always great to have you. What is it that you most look forward to about Christmas? Are you a Christmassy person? Are you a Grinch?
No, I'm into Christmas. I love Christmas, and for all the things you said, the gifts and family, blessed with a very rich extended family, and all the Costello, my two siblings, and their kids, and now grandchildren get together. So it's a wonderful time of food, gift, and family.
So, Tim, in a moment, we're going to ask you about this famous gift you got, but I'm going to tell you about my most memorable ever Christmas gift. I reckon I was about 13, and I received under the tree, unwrapped, the most spectacular Grey Nichols super short handle power spot cricket bat.
I'm glad you finished with cricket. Like,
Otherwise,
what
yeah,
is that?
what is that?
Tim knows what I'm talking about.
He does.
And
Absolutely.
beautiful English willow, lovely grain. It smelt good. Everything about this was fabulous. And I then spent, Tim, I reckon 6 months knocking the bat in. For people who don't know this,
With the linseed oil.
linseed oil, and then tapping the bat and rolling it with a bottle and all the stuff you used to have to do. I don't think you do this anymore. You used to have to knock a cricket bat in. So this was my pride and joy, and all my mates used to give me so much grief about, are you ever going to use this thing? It's ridiculous. And they were right. First time I ever went out to use it, I was an opening bat. Third ball, broke the bat.
So hang on, does this mean that it wasn't actually the quality it was meant to be?
Knocked in.
Well,
did you ruin it?
Knocked
Exactly.
in. Possibly it wasn't the quality I imagined it was. And
What's the
to
moral of
say
this
I was
story?
a little disappointed that day would be an understatement.
Oh, poor little Simon.
Anyway, poor me. I've recovered. Tim, you had a memorable story about was it your best ever, or at least most memorable present?
Certainly most memorable, probably best ever. So at 11, I was given a bike with my name, Tim Costello, painted on it. But it was the story that went with it, and the family ritual that accompanied it. It was my father's bike that he had repainted and he had kept, and he told me the story of how his bike was named Peter Pan. He'd painted out that and put my name, Tim Costello, in. He told me the story how he would ride Peter Pan to visit my mother. She was for 2 years, from the age of 21 to nearly 23, in hospital, told she wasn't going to live. Then when she looked like she was going to live, told she mustn't ever marry. And when she got engaged, they said, this could kill you. You mustn't have children. Told when I was conceived as the firstborn, I should be aborted to save her life. She said, fiddlesticks, what would the doctors know? And
Wow.
she's still alive at 92.
Oh, my.
Amazing.
And my father took great pleasure in the death notice of the doctor who told her that she was going
That's
to
not
die
very
many
Christmas
years later.
spirit.
So Peter Pan was the bike of family folklore that my father rode many miles. He was a working class boy, lived near Flemington Race Course. My mother, who was quite literate, was delighted that her fiancé had named a bike Peter Pan, obviously after J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, and was absolutely shocked to discover my father had never heard of J.M. Barrie, let alone read Peter Pan.
Oh, right.
Peter Pan was the Melbourne Cup winner in 1932 and 1934.
What you don't know can't hurt you.
And it rather put a chill on my mother's, choice of who she was going to marry.
That's great.
But this story goes on. So I rode what was my dad's Peter Pan bike, repainted with my name on it. I kept it. I planned to give it to my eldest child. And then in St Kilda, way back in the early 90s, it was stolen. And there was great grief that this family heirloom had been stolen. Some 15 years later, I was at World Vision. A call came through the call centre from a man down in Gippsland near Sale. He said, I've got a bike with the name Tim Costello on it that I found in an op shop. I'm happy to bring it up if it's his, if he'll, have a coffee and let me have a picture with him.
Oh, yes.
Wow, a small price to pay.
So Peter Pan, now Tim Costello, was returned to me. And though it's a bit corroded, it is still in the family. So that was certainly the best Christmas gift I remember.
Did you give it to your son, Tim?
Oh. So my son Martin rode Peter Pan. So now Tim Costello. So now 3 generations have ridden it. My father was given it when he was 11. So he was born in 1919 and got it when he was 11. And, Peter Pan won the Melbourne Cup a year or so later. And that's why he named it. So, yeah, that's my best gift.
Did we get verification when this bike was returned that it was the authentic item? Sotheby's might want to know because we need to get this, a certificate or something.
Look, I think Peter Pan's now basically in the same state of repair as your cricket bat.
Well, that's a bit sad. You should put that in the Costello Museum. It needs to be restored.
Yeah, no, I should. It's quite interesting that my father's father, was an SP bookie, and my father, who grew up near Flemington, always picked a racing winner, given where my career has ended up.
That's right. You rebel. But Tim, do you remember what it was like to get that phone call? Because that was your treasured childhood possession.
It was unbelievable. I'd given up. And it was like a death, really. Peter Pan and my bike had gone forever. So it was, for me, just the best news, Justine.
Oh, so good. So in this episode, we've been talking about the best bits of Christmas for everyone. But can we ask you to, land the plane here? Can you join up the original Christmas story with your story of this return of this bike? Go on, off you go.
Well, I could talk about that which was mine, was lost and had to be redeemed and brought back. But look, I think for me, the Christmas story is literally about God with us. When you read in Luke chapter 2, the shepherds in the region see the angels and are the first ones to hear the news that there is a child to be born. And, Barnaby Joyce would like the fact that it's in the regions that the marginalised and the vulnerable hear the news. But the shepherds were nobodies. They were the poorest of the poor and forgotten. And I love the fact that God with us is saying God sees people who don't have any significance, at least in society's minds. They are loved by God, that this baby born who will die for the sins of the world is first announced to the most marginalised. Of course, they're filled with fear, and the first words of the angel is, "Fear not." And I often think about Christmas, that it's about anxiety for many people. Will someone come to Christmas, or we know they won't? The sense of huge frailty and fragility at Christmas. Will they like the present I give? Will I be alone? That the Christmas message is, we are not alone. The one who made this world, who is redeeming this world, has come to us. That's what the name Emmanuel, God with us, means. And I often think of just the profound loneliness at Christmas, which is the opposite of the shepherds. They suddenly knew they were not alone. And this was good news for the whole world. So for me, overcoming that loneliness, I think, is really at the heart of the Christian message. And we aren't alone. The Creator loves us. And in Jesus, he has come showing what the world would look like with God's presence, what the world would look like if God ran the show. And for me, that's what I celebrate at Christmas.
This has been Life and Faith with me, Simon Smart, Justine Toe and Natasha Moore. We've had lots of fun making Life and Faith this year. We hope it's been entertaining, interesting and thought-provoking for you, our listeners, and we look forward to doing it all again in 2022.
After a break, let's be clear. I think we all need a break after the year that's been, and the podcast too will be taking a break over the summer, but we'll be back in 2022 with more stories of life and faith.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a restful time off, and we will see you in the new year.